Good morning, everyone. We're continuing here in KITZUR HILCHOS SHABBOS in the laws of Boirer. The kol ze b'shas achila mamish. All of this that we said you could use a kli, a utensil to make the separation, that's only when you're eating. Aval kodem achila, but before you're going to sit down to eat, b'shas shemechina ma'ichem, at the time that you're preparing the food, ein lishtamish b'kelim, you cannot use these utensils, a fork, a knife, and a spoon, and the like. So too, he says that if you want to remove the chicken from the bone, before you're actually going to sit down to eat it, you're just preparing the meal, you cannot. Rather, you have to do everything with your hands. So you'd have to pull the meat off of the bone with your hand. If you want to take the fat off the milk, to put into a cup of coffee, you cannot use a spoon, because that's considered to be, that's separating with a utensil. Meaning, if you're not planning to drink the coffee this very moment. However, to pour the fat off of the top of the milk, that would be permissible. She said, that's considered making a separation, separating with your hand, and not with a kli, not with a utensil. So too, even with a spoon. If you take a little bit of the milk together with the fat, that's also okay. Or you leave some of the fat behind. But that's like we wrote above. That's how you can do that also. Now, this issue over here is only if the actual breira, the separation, is coming through the kli, the utensil itself. Then we make a distinction between the time that you're actually eating, or when it's samach, when it's close to the time that you're going to eat. For example, removing the meat from the bones. You have a piece of chicken, and you want to remove the meat from the bones with a knife and a fork. So at the time that you are eating, you're allowed to remove the meat from the bone with your fork and your knife, but to prepare the meat without the bone before you're going to eat, that you would not be allowed to do with a fork and a knife. However, if you're only taking the food with the utensil, however, if you want to stick your fork into a piece of meat or chicken that's lying amongst the other pieces that are there, and your only intention is to remove it from the pile because you want to get it onto your plate. Since you're not really doing an act of breira, of separation through the utensil itself, the kli, the utensil only being used to help you remove the chicken from the pile, that's not called separating with a kli. And that's going to be permissible like any time that you can remove the food from the psailus and that which you don't want. You can even do that before you're going to eat, even with the kli, even with the utensil over here. So again, cutting off the chicken from the bone directly, I'm only allowed to do that when I'm sitting down for the eating itself. I can cut off, which is I'm removing the good from the bad over there. I'm removing what I want. I'm doing it with a kli. That's only at the time that I'm going to eat. Before I'm going to eat, I'm allowed to do it with my hand. I can remove the good from the bad. And over here, when I just want to move a piece of chicken over to one from the main serving plate onto my plate, that's not really called such a bayre over here, says the KITZUR, and therefore to use my kli, to use my fork, to be able to remove it, I would be allowed to do such a thing. I can even do it before I'm actually going to eat, there's not going to be a prohibition over there. Okay, Be'ez Hashem, we will continue tomorrow. All the best.